European leaders to join Zelensky for Washington talks as Trump presses peace deal. European leaders, including from Germany, France and Britain, will accompany Volodymyr Zelenskiy to meet Donald Trump in Washington, they said today, 17, seeking to bolster him as the U.S. president presses Ukraine to accept a quick peace. Ahead of the Washington talks on Monday, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer were hosting a meeting of allies on Sunday to shore up Zelenskyy's position, hoping in particular to lock down robust security guarantees for Ukraine that would include a U.S. role. President Trump is leaning on Ukraine to strike an agreement after meeting Vladimir Putin on Friday in Alaska. According to sources, the U.S. and Russian leaders discussed proposals for Russia to relinquish tiny pockets of occupied Ukraine in exchange for Ukraine ceding a swathe of fortified land in the east and freezing the front lines elsewhere. At face value, some of Putin's demands would be hugely difficult for Ukraine to accept, setting the stage for potentially fraught talks about ending Europe's deadliest war in 80 years, which has killed or wounded more than 1 million people. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen will also travel to Washington, as will Finland's President Alexander Stubb, whose access to Trump included rounds of golf in Florida earlier this year. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who is an admirer of many of Trump's policies, will also go to Washington, her office said. European allies are keen to avoid a repeat of Zelenskyy's last Oval Office meeting in February. That went disastrously, with Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance giving the Ukrainian leader a strong public dressing down. The talks will address, among other things, security guarantees, territorial issues, and continued support for Ukraine in its defense against Russian aggression, the German government said in a statement about the Washington trip. This includes maintaining pressure on sanctions. Macron, Merz and Starmer will host a virtual meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, a grouping of allies of Kiev, from 1300 GMT on Sunday. Von der Leyen will host Zelensky in Brussels, from where the two leaders will also dial in. European powers want to help set up a trilateral meeting between Trump, Putin and Zelensky to make sure Ukraine has a seat at the table to shape its future. They also want security guarantees for Ukraine with U.S. involvement, and the ability to crank up pressure on Moscow if needed. They will spell out what they consider essential in terms of security guarantees, what they can do themselves, what falls to the coalition of volunteers, and also what they expect from the United States, a European government official said. Indeed, they expect a very robust commitment.